Today on Locked On White Sox, I talked to Janice Scurio about the 2022 Chicago White Sox.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms. We're free and available on platforms like Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Sox. And you can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. Big day on Locked On Sox. This is the second YouTube video that we have. Go follow us on YouTube, Locked On Sox. We should be the only channel that pops up there. There should be, I think, 4 videos now, 3 without video, and then 1 with me talking to you about Yoan Moncada. And I guess there's a 5th one now, and it's this episode. I talk with Janice Scurio about the 2022 Baseball Prospectus essay on the 2022 White Sox. This is the Baseball Prospectus 2022 guide to the season, and in every single page of this is filled with baseball content. And here is the White Sox page. Look at that. And Janice wrote this page, and she wrote on this page, and I highlighted all of it. Isn't that crazy? Look at that. And all that nice. And this is all stats and everything. And James Fegan wrote the player comments about the stats underneath each player. So it's a must-have for baseball fans. And I really, really, really urge you to go pick it up. You will learn a lot, and you will learn a lot from this conversation with me and Janice. Janice is the co-host of the Side Sox podcast with Sam Sherman. She is also a co-host of the Estrogen podcast with Crystal O'Keefe, Keelan Ballou, and Colleen Sullivan. And she writes for Sports Illustrated, Southside Sox, NBC Sports Edge Baseball, and of course, Baseball Prospectus. And I asked Janice, we start our conversation off by asking about the, hold on one second too. I didn't plug. You can follow her on Twitter at Scuriosa, at SCURIIOSA. I start off by asking Janice what she thinks and when she thinks the MLB lockout will end.
If the season does start on time, we can pretty much assume that the Players Union had to give up an excessive amount of concessions to actually come to an agreement on the CBA. But it does not surprise me that no progress has been made. And I mean, just more Nathan for you memes where he's like, he takes the cover off of the dinner plate and is like, I hope you're hungry for nothing. And the news today that apparently they need to bring in the feds to help push the conversation forward, which I think is, I don't know if I feel better about that or considerably worse.
Yeah, I saw a thing where the NHL lockout was helped by federal negotiators in 2013. But then when baseball tried to do it in 94, they came to an agreement, and then there was 7 more months of a lockout. And knowing baseball, even though, 1994 is still, 20, 30 plus years, whatever later, I still feel like that would happen. Like baseball would get a federal negotiator and then they'd still be like, no, it's okay. I have no faith in these people at all. I have no faith in the way that they allow people in their ballparks. I have no faith in the way that they run their teams. So I just have no faith that, they're going to represent the players correctly or fans. And the longer and longer we go, on, I don't see that they're going to start on April, whatever.
Yeah, I have zero confidence that the season is going to start on time, which, I mean, I'm going to be slightly selfish for a moment. I am admittedly kind of mad that I now live within, walking distance of the ballpark, and the season's I'm not even going to get a full season. I mean, like I'm theoretically going to live there for quite a while now, but it's definitely kind of a case of immediacy here where it's like, I don't know. I can't say that I miss baseball because Major League Baseball is not the only form of baseball in the world, but it's what we grew up with. It's what I grew up with. It's what we're used to. It's marketed to us as being the highest level of quality, like just in the entire world. Yeah, I mean, it still sucks. And that's just something I'm going to have to selfishly just get over.
Well, and selfishly, I mean, you've gone to a couple cool Sox games over the past 2 years. I know that you covered the Lucas Giolito no-hitter. I know you were out with Tanny and Herb at Pittsburgh in 2021. Yeah. So now you're going to be closer to the ballpark. I mean, what has been being at the ballpark in 2022 and 2021? What has that been like for you? What were some of the standout moments?
Goodness, I went to a lot of games in 2021, just mainly because I was just suffering from withdrawal. 2020, I got to attend a handful of those games, and I'm deeply privileged to have done that. It was just absolutely mind-blowing that there was a season to begin with in 2020. And two, that I was one out of a handful of people that got to experience games in person. So it was myself and my colleague at Side Sox and Side Sox, Sam Sherman. He and I actually saw the game together, and that was actually the day that we first met in person. And it was definitely kind of a really great thing to take in tandem. And it's almost kind of like something that strengthens your friendship with somebody, is to witness some sort of historical event. And that's something that I bring up with Sam all the time. It's like, we saw that together. That was totally cool. Like we completely just validated each other's experience by taking that game in. I saw a lot of games in 2021, and probably my big highlight, first of all, I met up with a bunch of the folks from White Sox Twitter that I had befriended over the 2020 season. And it was all just like long distance friendships. It felt like I had like just talked to people. I'm realizing that I have more interests with a handful of folks that expand beyond baseball. And I'm like, dang, okay. I'm feeling a little lonely here. I'm feeling a little, pandemic cabin fever. So as soon as, of course, it was safe enough that I felt safe enough to do so, I went to the ballpark, met up with those people, and took in some games. So probably one of the most memorable games I saw in person was probably Nick Madrigal's first home run.
Nice.
First of all, I was waiting in line for ice cream when the home run actually happened. I was waiting in line with my friend, Ashley. And we're just, I think it was the first time that we had met in person as well. And so, we're just chatting, waiting for our little helmet soft serves or whatever. And all of a sudden we just hear this roar in the background, and I have no idea what the hell's happening. And so I hear just the scoreboard popping off. And of course I'm just like, all right, someone hit a home run. I just don't know who. And all of a sudden I just hear someone shout out, Madrigal, Madrigal. I'm like, what? Seriously? Holy crap.
And the fact that he got two was probably the most, crazy part of 2021. Was not only did we see one, he was able to follow it up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was what everyone was afraid of, that, this excellent contact hitter was now hitting for power. So watch out.
Watch out.
Well, of course now. Oh, yes. Now it's going to be watch out NL Central, I guess. But we don't have to talk about that if you don't want to.
Yeah. Thank God he's not in our division. With 2021, though, I know that you were, one of the last people at the ballpark too. You were at Game 4. I had to clean up an entire bottle of glass olive oil that I spilled into, on my floor. So that was my Game 4 watching experience. Thankfully, I didn't actually have to take in the game, but you did. What's your last thoughts on, how we left the Sox in Game 4?
Goodness. Well, I hope your floor is hardwood, and I hope it's like nice and moisturized.
It was laminated. Yeah. Getting under the oven was real tough.
Oh no.
That's for the next tenants. That's their issue.
I was picturing this like nicely, just well moisturized hardwood floor that's shiny. But no, the way you described it, no, that actually kind of sucks. So I'm sorry.
It's all good. I was more upset about the game, honestly.
But yeah, I was too. So to not go off on too much of a tangent, I actually had tickets to Game 3. And I had to sell my ticket to Game 3 because it was also the day of my friend's wedding, and I was standing up for it. So I was very happy to do so. So even though there was definitely some residual butthurt from not being able to see Game 3 and how awesome it ended up being, I managed to sell my ticket and use the proceeds to get a ticket for Game 4. And so the entire time I'm holding my bouquet, my little bridesmaid bouquet, I'm like, all right, if the White Sox win, then I get to see one more game. I basically felt like I was, like free downloadable content. All right, so the White Sox need to win this. And then, they unlock me. I get to go to another game, right? So,
Did you have your phone like propped up in the flowers?
Almost. I actually showed enough restraint to put it away for the entire time, but I did have my Apple Watch on for push notifications for the score. As soon as, they completely locked it in, I was like, all right, not only did I get to celebrate my friend's big day, I get to see another White Sox game. Game 4 was just, it honestly just felt like a freebie. I kind of knew that things probably weren't going to go well, just mainly due to the fatigue the pitching staff was already facing. I knew Carlos Rodon's innings had been significantly reduced. So even though I had faith in him, I didn't think he would go past a few innings, which happened to be the case. And of course, the Astros lineup also happened too. So I kind of knew that it wouldn't go well, but I tried my best to just have a good time. It was all about the people. It was all about the friends I was with. And, the last few moments hanging out at the Craft Cave, Section 108, walking around the concourse. Yeah, absolutely. So it was really more so, maybe the White Sox were playing with house money. Maybe they could have gone a little bit further, but it was really more so just taking the experience in and preparing for 2022.
Oop, excuse me. Hey there. It's the new year. So that means New Year's resolutions. If yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure you include Built Bar in your plan. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, maybe even better than a candy bar. Built Bar makes it easier to stick to your resolutions because it tastes so good, you'll want to eat it. Unlike other protein bars, which can be chalky or waxy or taste like a chemical spill, Built Bars are carved in 100% real chocolate. They're going to taste like a candy bar. But, you think about a candy bar, has 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs, where a Built Bar, again, made of 100% real chocolate, has only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. And the best part, my favorite part about Built Bar is there's so many flavors to choose from. Coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, salted caramel, mint brownie, and many more. Built is always coming out with new and limited time flavors too, so you have to check out built.com to see what's new. And you can go get them for a little bit cheaper. If you go to built.com, you use promo code LOCKED15, you can get 15% off your order. You can try out all of these great flavors and you can get 15% off. Who doesn't like 15% off? Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. I'm talking with Janice Scurio, the writer for Baseball Prospectus 2022 White Sox essay. You split it up into 5 stories. She's also the host of the Side Sox podcast with Sam Sherman. Shout out to Sam. Shout out to Estrogen Power Hour as well, another podcast you host. But writing for Baseball Prospectus, writing for NBC Sports Edge Baseball, and also Side Sox. A lot of White Sox baseball you take in, talk about all the games that you went to. How shocked were you when Tony La Russa was named manager?
Like many folks, I thought it was a joke, just mainly because there was so much smoke around it. And at the time, it just seemed a little ass backwards, right? So it's like, all right, so you already have this incredibly accomplished, decorated, seemingly retired manager who's been out of the game for quite a while, but has been kind of hanging around on the peripheral with some organizations. It really made no sense, especially when there's a crop of fresh young talent, managers looking to get into coaching positions and get their foot in the door, just mainly because, we do see a lack of, like, especially like Black managers, like Latino managers, managers of other races as well. So it's like, this opportunity definitely could have gone to, someone else, perhaps from an underrepresented group. But of course, Instead of that, we get someone who is already, is already like pretty accomplished. So it really made no sense. Like, what is he trying to achieve? Like what is the purpose of him coming back?
Well, and I love the way that you described it. It's like reheating, like attempting to reheat French fries. Like it's just never works. Maybe it works if you put it in the oven, but it's really specific circumstances. I thought that was great. And just the idea of, you described his character development as static. And that's, something I was asked when I was on the Good Guys Talk Back podcast. They asked me, what is still left for Tony? And the only thing I can think of is to win that fourth ring. But I still don't understand like where the motivation is coming from him. I don't see, he seemed to get into it more and more as the season was going on, but even early in April and May, it just didn't seem like he was locked in as the manager. So not only, taking away from a misrepresented group like Ricky Renteria with his Hispanic heritage, Tony then also being Jerry's buddy, the way that you described it, of like, being fired by the long-term broadcaster, it just leaves a sour taste in my mouth because I don't know if this team has the right person driving the machine. And I know managers don't matter much to me, but do you have any of those worries with the 2022 Sox?
I did notice that near the end of the season, the players were definitely warming up to him, and Tony was definitely warming up to his players, which should have been the case from the get-go. But I will give him credit for that. And I mean, like I'm on the outside. We're all technically on the outside. So I mean, like maybe we really don't know, but of course, like those are just the optics. That's just everything. That's how everything appears. But at this point, I mean, yeah, I definitely want Tony to get along with his players. And kind of when I was writing the Baseball Prospectus essay, in the first draft I wrote, I actually did not mention Tony at all. And I thought that, maybe it's going to be more of an intentional, hilarious oversight that perhaps one of the most polarizing events to happen to the 2021 White Sox, this writer just completely, chose to ignore him altogether. But the more I thought about it, the more interesting of an angle it was to explore. So I wanted to look at Tony as more of a fictional character. So perhaps, if the White Sox were an HBO original series, and I mean, like, I don't know, like, I'm not sure if I would want to watch, say, the 2021 White Sox over like Euphoria, maybe. Actually, you know what? Maybe I would rather watch the White Sox. So like I began to think about Tony as, a fictional character and say, well, what his development would look like over the course of time. But of course, at the very beginning of the season, he really has like no clear motivations. Like, is he just trying to right a wrong? Is Jerry trying to right a wrong? Is this just perhaps an attempt to reconnect with his past self? There's maybe something that we're missing here, but for the most part, especially in April and May, we're just kind of seeing this old dude existing.
Right. And I think what might be missing is just his, and I know he loves baseball, but it just seems like, I don't know. I think that he knows baseball. It might be comfortable for him to return to baseball, but it just doesn't seem like he is there like he used to be. I mean, people describe him. I'm not old enough for Tony La Russa. I wasn't around in 1983, but it seemed like he was a completely different person back then because he was younger and had completely different motivations. I want to talk to you now about Carlos Rodon. I think that there's still an opportunity that he comes back in 2022. I love the way that you described him. I have very similar feelings. Just the joy I saw in him succeeding in 2021 was great. And I hope he gets paid. Him and his family are great, and he deserves that. But what do you think if this is the end of Carlos Rodon in a White Sox uniform? How do you look back at his career?
Oh, goodness. Carlos Rodon's section of my essay was definitely kind of, giving him his flowers, flowers for Elgar Rodon, I titled it. So, it was sort of a more, I meant for it to be sad. And I think I achieved that, where I'm just like, yes, you just like this generalized fan, are thinking about this player's career and all of the adversities he went through, just the Tommy John surgery and all of the setbacks, and the fact that, he was non-tendered before coming back and having the best season of his career, throwing a no-hitter just so soon after having Tommy John surgery. That's absolutely incredible. It's the bounce back story of the year. It's absolutely just heartwarming. And of course, too, there's this, lingering thought in the back of your mind where you're just like, all right, but it's a 1-year deal. He's headed towards free agency. And then, later on in the season, you're noticing that he's wearing down. His innings pitched are considerably higher than any, the prior 2 years he's pitched. So there's definitely some concern there. But goodness, I do hope he gets his money. If he does come back to the White Sox, that would certainly just be a very welcome, and I would be happy to see him back.
Right.
Is what I'm trying to say. But I would be very happy to also see him get paid.
Yeah, I was really just surprised, too, because I went back to my baseball prospectus guide from 2021 that I never read. And in those, James Fegan wrote, there's no surgery that can recreate Rodon of 2016, just an exploratory one to discover what remains of him in 2021. And I think we saw a lot of what remains with Carlos Rodon. I would love to see him back. I mean, do you think that there's a possibility? Like, I look at it and I keep saying that I was shocked that they didn't extend the qualifying offer, but then again, that's like a $15 million raise, and we know the White Sox and money, it's a little tricky. I mean, do you think that there's a possibility? Do you have a meter? Is there a Janice meter, 70% chance, 50% chance? I mean, what do you think about the possible reunion?
Oh, goodness. I think they're probably going to move on. But of course, too, you think about that rotation, and left-handed pitching is much to be desired now. So the only available option now, hypothetically, if no one else is added, is just Dallas Keuchel, which does not make me feel good. But goodness. Yeah, I think they're going to move on from Rodon, unfortunately.
Yeah, Dallas Keuchel does not make me feel good is the slogan of this podcast. So we totally agree with you on that one.
I was trying to think of a way, let me try to be as at least respectful as possible over here. I am feeling not good about this.
I have important news. BetOnline is now the exclusive sportsbook of Locked On White Sox and the Locked On Podcast Network. There might be less football being played. I've only heard there's one more game, but betonline.net has way more stuff to bet on this playoff season. From scores, total, player performance props, you can even bet on where the next fired coach is going to land. BetOnline is the #1 spot for all things NFL betting in 2022. And it's not just football. BetOnline's basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC odds coverage are the best in the business. From sports right down to your favorite Vegas casino games, BetOnline is the #1 online wagering destination. BetOnline is also the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports and to play your favorite games. Again, betonline.net is the #1 spot for all things wagering. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Talking with Janice Scurio. She wrote the Baseball Prospectus essay for the 2022 White Sox. I want to talk to you about Liam Hendriks. I saw that he was naming all of the 7 people that he walked with Rob Friedman on pitcher list. Really impressive year for him. But you also talked about the work that he added to the White Sox just culturally and to the community. Why was that important to write about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did read the 2021 White Sox essay, which did focus a lot on social justice and a lot of the causes that were kind of happening in 2020, a lot of the Black Lives Matter protests, and a lot of the extraneous issues that were surrounding the city of Chicago, especially when baseball was being played. And I definitely did not want to stop the momentum there. I still wanted to talk about, we play, or Major League Baseball is being played in a very real world where we, deal with all these important social issues. And so I noticed especially how Liam Hendriks and his wife Christy as well have a very large, just a philanthropic interest in the LGBTQ community. And as a queer person myself, I thought that was amazing. And also, too, I looked into the history of players supporting Pride nights. And so I asked around, and it seems as if Liam Hendriks is the first player in White Sox history to at least voluntarily be the face of White Sox Pride. And I attended Pride Night. I had a great time. And there was video of Liam Hendriks like just happily hoisting the Pride flag in front of Guaranteed Rate Field. And I thought that was really cool. And I also looked into a lot of the things that the Hendrikses were doing. So they've donated money to the Howard Brown Center, really crucial to kind of help LGBTQ folks get like great health care. It was really refreshing to kind of see a lot of that representation and advocacy as well as allyship come through an actual White Sox player, as opposed to just, the White Sox tweeting out a rainbow flag or just something to push forward rainbow capitalism. But
well, and I thought it was interesting too, just because, Kenny Williams is like one of the only like head of baseball operations, him being the executive vice president of the Sox. He's the only person of color in that type of position that seems to be speaking out about the hiring inequalities for front offices. So I think that was really interesting to see that develop from the White Sox bullpen and Liam Hendriks. And then also I remember, Ozzie using a slur to a reporter back in 2006. So it's great to see that they're kind of looking to turn the page and improve relationships with the communities that they've turned a blind eye to. Now going to somebody else on the field, another big free agent signing you mentioned, and I love this. Where was it? I think it was just, he's evidence. This is on Liam Hendriks. He's evidence of how it's advantageous to pursue big name free agents in order to contend. And here comes Yasmani Grandal. You, former Milwaukeean, huge Yasmani Grandal fan. I loved the story that you told. I tried to find the exact at bat. Was that an actual at bat that you talked about and detailed?
No, it was a fictional at bat. I just basically had this game. Yasmani is at the plate. When I was visualizing how this fictional scenario was going, I completely just forgot about like what side of the plate is he batting on. So I thought about that afterwards when I was working with my editor, Patrick. He's like, so where in the count are we? Like what pitches is he seeing? Who's the pitcher on the mound? I actually didn't think the pitcher on the mound was that important, just mainly because I wanted the focus to remain on Yasmani and kind of the internal dialogue he's having with himself as he's watching pitches. He's kind of, throwing smirks with the catcher behind the plate. He's feeling the crowd, but most of all, he's feeling himself. I kind of imagine when Yasmani is taking his at-bats, he's being very careful. He's remembering his eye training. He's waiting for the pitches that he likes. Just mainly because he's an extremely patient hitter. I mean, his walk rates and his on-base percentage is proof in the pudding there. That was completely just made up in my head.
Very creative. And there was one that was
also very fun to write about.
There was one that was close. I think probably left-handed would make the most sense if he's hitting at the G rate and looking at Tony in the dugout. I think that would probably make the most sense. But there was one that was really close. I think he had like a 7-pitch at bat against Matt Shoemaker. So he was on the left-handed side. He hit a home run on a 2-2 count. No, you got really close on one. So I was wondering if there was a specific one that I was just completely missing. But great creativity there. The one thing too with Grandal, I mean, are you worried about him and his catcher workload? Because I don't really like the talk of, him playing first base or DH. Like, I think that he is so important to the White Sox at that catcher position. Are you buying into that talk over 2022? How do you expect his 2022 to look, Grandal?
I think the catching the catching workload is expected to be pretty high for him, especially because, he's 33, 34 now. And he did have surgery before or right after the season ended. And I know that, just being in that position for innings on end is like not good for your knees. So especially right after he had that offensive outburst right after he came back to the White Sox in September. I mean, historically, he's always done well in September, but I definitely think that the extra rest certainly helped. So, that was actually one of the things that was very marketable about Yaz is that, he plays first base. He can definitely DH. He can definitely catch. And he did all those things from Milwaukee as well. He's also an incredible catcher too. But I think something that needs to be considered is, the backup catcher position right now and kind of what that looks like.
Here comes Sebi. Right now, here comes Zach Collins.
Comes Sebi. Here comes Zach Collins. And I actually do like Sebi a lot. I think, we saw the Sebi Zavala game last season too, where, he hit all those home runs and the White Sox still managed to lose. So there's also another great story there in Sebi. I know that Grandal works very well with the pitching staff, especially, I know when Grandal and Keuchel were signed in the 2020 offseason, Keuchel actually made this comment at Sox Fest about Yasmani Grandal, saying that, he's going to make me so much better. And I can definitely see that, like a great framing catcher and a corner painting lefty. Yeah, of course, that's a perfect combination there.
And he was right. 2020 was great for Keuchel.
Yeah, 2020 was great. 2021, not so much.
Yeah, and now we can just show that wasn't on Grandal. It was just Keuchel being bad. Final thing on this podcast, we have been huge about right field. I think that the White Sox should sign Kyle Schwarber. I think that with their the left-handed park factors, or the park factors for left-handed hitters for guaranteed rate would play perfectly into Schwarber's type of hitting. I think that he'd be similar to Grandal in a way. What do you think about right field? You wrote about the idea that anyone could just be called at any moment, and they just need to be better than Adam Eaton. Do you have a prediction for right field? Do you think that it's it might be solved by somebody that's already on the roster? How do you vision 2022 right field playing out for the Sox?
Yeah, Sean, I think it should be you. You should go out there. I mean, you're a left-handed hitter, right?
Yeah, I'm a lefty.
Yeah, as am I. I too am also a left-handed hitter. So yeah, it could be any one of us really. So in that section of the essay, I wrote it in the second person again, just mainly because I wanted to pull the reader into the story and be like, hey, you are the new White Sox right fielder. And so you are being brought in with bright eyes and bushy tail, with a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed outlook, and you want to make this team better. But the thing is though, like from the outside, you might not possibly be the best option. So I think, I agree with you there that, maybe Schwarber would be a fantastic fit. Again, like you mentioned, a left-handed hitter at guaranteed rate field. Holy crap. But of course too, it's the eternal problem that we have. It seems as if there are always just this chock load of fantastic options that the White Sox front office doesn't seem to even want to touch. So, I mean, there's still a perfectly good Nick Castellanos also sitting around as well. So
Michael Conforto. I mean, they got to pick. Just hopefully they do pick.
Yeah, Conforto, Castellanos. I mean, there is still just a wealth of options out there. But of course, too, all of that came to a standstill. So we're going to have to wait until, the owners put their big boy pants on and the lockout.
Fingers crossed. Final question outside of, I think I already said final question, but this is final question. I know it was probably tough deciding what would be the biggest story for the Sox, which is why I think you probably ended up splitting it up into 5 stories. If you had to pick, what is the most important question or story to the 2022 White Sox? And let's just say they'll figure out the lockout. I know that's a very big what if, but lockout aside, what is the biggest story for the 2022 Sox?
Goodness, I think the biggest story there is probably going to lie in Michael Kopeck. I know that the team has big plans for him. They want to move him into the rotation, which I think is great. I kind of wish he would have pitched more innings last year in order to, safely do so. But I feel as if, he's going to be a fantastic addition to the rotation if they continue that development path for him. So maybe it's time to think of that 2022 cast of season 2 of the HBO original series White Sox. I think Michael Kopeck is going to be huge. One player that I kind of regret not writing a story for is Tim Anderson. That Hollywood ending at the Field of Dreams game, probably the reason why I didn't go that route is because it seemed as if it was a little too obvious of a story to write. It's also been talked about quite a bit, mostly by me. I've written so many times about that game. Maybe there will be another Field of Dreams like moment for Tim in 2022. But anyway, I feel as if Michael Kopeck and Tim Anderson will be some of the emerging characters in this new fictionalized White Sox universe that I just made up.
I want to thank Janice Scurio a ton for her time. Again, you can follow her at Scuriosa, at SCURIIOSA. She is the co-host of the North Side Sox podcast with Sam Sherman. She is the co-host of the Estrogen Power Hour with Colleen Sullivan, Keelan Ballou, and Crystal O'Keefe. You can read her writing at SI, Southside Sox, NBC Sports Edge Baseball, and at Baseball Prospectus. Of course, that's why we were talking today. So shout out to Janice for her time. And I get her point about Tim Anderson because he is a very interesting player, described as the straw that stirs the drink, the leadoff hitter, the guy that makes the team go. But I mean, there's probably an argument where Yohan Moncada might be a better leadoff hitter. Yet he is this guy that just exudes so much confidence, and he's such a leader out there. He is a very interesting story because it just seems like every single year his stock rises higher and higher. And I just wonder, is the ceiling the roof for Tim Anderson? So I totally get her point about Tim Anderson. And of course, Michael Kopeck, and we saw what he did last year. That's his rookie year. I mean, how much better can he get? So Janice Scurio made some great points. Hope you enjoyed our conversation. Again, you can follow her on Twitter at Scuriosa, SCURIIOSA. Thank you again, Janice, for your time. Thank you for listening. If you did listen, thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. The next episode is a mailbag. Call in 312-566-8727, or you can write in at lockedonsox@gmail.com. Now go make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. I will talk to you on Monday here on Locked On Sox.